Self-help credit union branch manager. Um, Glad to be joining you guys today.
Well, good morning and welcome to Community Voice. Olivia, when you did your name, I thought about the Whispers. That's one of those songs where people don't know the name of it is Olivia, right? That's the title of that song by the Whispers.
Yes.
And Pam,
You gonna run a bar for us?
no, I'm gonna run about, but you got one too. Toto did a song called Pamela.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I had a. I know you don't want to hear this, but yeah, I had a. Oh wow, Pam. I had a Pam in my life.
Well,
You're better
I was
for
going to
it.
say I have a very unique name, so no songs about an Irinda.
Yet.
Yes.
So tell us what's your role in terms of you're here to talk about the Freedom Ball, right? So tell us what's your role and what that looks like.
So we are serving on the planning committee for the Freedom Ball and looking to just bring awareness to the Freedom Ball. This is the event that Northcott holds to raise money for the scholarships for Mr. and Miss Juneteenth. So want to get the community engaged around this event. It is on June 14th at 6 p.m. at the Harley Davidson Museum. Wonderful event supporting our youth that are doing great things in the community. So we're excited to be here and talk about it.
So how many scholarships are we talking about? Do you have a? I know
How many have
Mr.
been
and
given
Miss.
out this far? I know annually they give
No, who
out
would be eligible? Mr. and Miss.
Mr. and Miss Juneteenth, and then there are different age categories. And then there's a writing component that they do to be given consideration for the scholarship.
You see the importance of this, right? In terms of even though Juneteenth celebrates our past, right? This pageant, in effect, accelerates. I'm looking for a word to kind of where it's about our future, right? That investment in young people. Why is that so important?
They're our future, right? So that's cliche, but they are our future. And then also our history is the foundation. So making sure that young people are aware of the history of Juneteenth and the importance and the significance that it has still today. So I think that's the driving force.
So why'd y'all want to do it? I mean, it sounds like it's one of those things. I've been assigned to things on the job, and they go, Keith, you get ready to serve on this committee. How did you volunteer for this, or was something where they force volunteered you?
Well, I can speak for myself. When I was growing up and attending high school, I knew what Juneteenth was. I knew it was something, but I was not taught about what Juneteenth actually was in high school. It was not celebrated as a holiday. It was not celebrated as something that we should celebrate. So for me, it weighed near and dear to my heart because once I found out what the actual truth behind Juneteenth was and the freedom for our people and the way our people had to suffer, you're free, but freedom costs. So it was very important to me to be a part of such a movement that allows us to understand our past, but understand that we're heading into a good future when we stay connected and when we come together as a community.
Olivia?
Yes, the importance of Juneteenth for me, growing up in Milwaukee, I too wasn't as aware of Juneteenth and what it meant. But now knowing and being involved in the community and wanting to give back, I want those that are coming underneath me to know what it's truly about and how we definitely have to give back because we only rise by lifting others.
You gonna say something, Pam? Or you just...
So, I mean, I echo everything that they say, but also there is so much positivity in our community. We have so many young people that are doing phenomenal things within our community, but they're not highlighted. So to be able to support something that is uplifting our young people and shining a positive light on all of the good things that they're doing. And we're all here of our free will. Like we all wanted to support this. It wasn't something that we were told we needed to do. We see the importance of supporting organizations like Northcott and events like the Freedom Ball.
And you talked about, it sounds like it was, I don't remember it being taught in school. I do remember us going to Juneteenth. And obviously, once on a collegiate level, studying Black history, that's what Juneteenth is, right?
Absolutely.
But this idea that it should really be a celebration, right?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I think that our youth should be celebrated. I think that our history should be celebrated. The fact that this is not in the history books just tells me that way a long time ago, it was taken away from us to celebrate. So if we don't know what we're supposed to celebrate, we have to allow on, schools to teach us about our history. So unfortunately, schools took Juneteenth out or not like properly told us what it was about. So now as we become adults, we have free will. So now it's our desire to understand our heritage, to support it. Not only, as Pam said, it's a highlight positivity, but to highlight Black-owned businesses, showcasing, Black businesses around not only Milwaukee, but everywhere. There's a lot of people that attend. We have over 70,000 people that touch the grounds of Juneteenth, vendors that are coming from other states. We foresee this being a huge accomplishment in the next couple of years with the more support that we have from radio stations and TV stations, broadcasting it in a positive light.
The Freedom Ball is a fundraiser, but the Freedom Ball is kind of rooted in some of the first Juneteenth celebrations. That term Sunday best really is a term that came from Juneteenth, because they're going like, oh man, we got to get dressed up for this, right? And so the Freedom Ball is kind of in that spirit, right?
Definitely. So your Sunday best, Afrocentric attire, apparel is appropriate. You're coming to dress to impress and honor. I say not only we're dressing to impress one another, but honoring the legacy.
Yeah, and I think that we got a lot of pushback from this, from the enslavers and the oppressors when they go, oh, it's ancestor worship. No, it's not ancestor worship. We appreciate our ancestors because we're here because of our ancestors, right? And I don't know any culture that doesn't value its ancestors, right? Its history.
Right.
And I think that we're getting to the point now where we're more embracing our history because we understand. It was interesting you said we talk about it in school because literally we were out of school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it's a national holiday. So what can people expect this year at the Freedom Ball?
I think that people can expect a great program. They can expect beautiful music, positivity.
When you say beautiful music.
Beautiful music. We're in between two bands,
Okay.
so we're not going to spill the tea yet. But there are very, very good bands. We also have a possible symphony. So just broadcasting a lot of talent around Milwaukee, and also, celebrating with each other, great food, loving on one another, and showing positivity.
So if do you need volunteers or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So
Love that.
the day of assisting, with both the ball and Juneteenth Day. So if there are individuals in the community under the sound of my voice and you would like to support Juneteenth or the Freedom Ball, we welcome you to reach out to Northcott Center to find your role. There is a role for you to have.
If people want tickets, how do they get tickets?
You can go online to Juneteenth. Well, actually go online to Northcott, and then there's a link to the Juneteenth Freedom Ball site to access tickets.
Talk, you talk about your credit union. I wasn't familiar with that particular credit union. Talk a little bit about that.
Oh, absolutely. So Self-Help Federal Credit Union, we are a social justice organization that works to eliminate the racial wealth gap through our product offerings and services. Our mission is creating and protecting economic opportunity and ownership for all, but we have a very intentional focus on serving those who are oftentimes either underserved or not served in traditional spaces. So people of color, women, rural residents, low wealth families, and communities. And we operate our we operate under a family of nonprofits. So the credit union arm, we represent the federally chartered credit union, which is in Wisconsin, Illinois, Washington State, and California. And then our state chartered credit union is North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Florida. And this month we will be opening in Georgia, in Atlanta specifically. So excited about that. And so the credit union arm, we provide the products and services that meet the community at their point of need. And so what do I mean by that? If someone has had challenge getting, responsible banking products due to their credit, due to maybe perhaps being reported to check systems, oftentimes we are able to work with them and establish a relationship and help them to become financially stable and strong and meet whatever those goals that they may have are. We have our, so the family of nonprofits that we execute our mission under, Center for Responsible Lending. That's our advocacy arm. And so they do a lot of work around policy reform and getting legislation in place to prevent predatory lenders from coming into the communities we serve. So when you think of payday loan stores, check cashing places, auto title loan companies, you don't find those in affluent communities. You find those in spaces where people are oftentimes underserved and there's a lot of disinvestment in those communities. So we work to get policy in place and to remove them from the communities that we serve. And then our Loan Ventures Fund that allows us to do commercial real estate development and investing that's not typical for a credit union. And so when we think of that with regards to Milwaukee, we own the former Legacy Bank building at 2102 West Fond du Lac Avenue. So working with community partners, Fondy Market to redevelop that space and bring needed resources into the community.
One of the interesting things about our particular form of enslavement was that many people, when they left enslavement, they really we used the big word reparation, right? They got their freedom. We got freedom with no wealth. And we've been trying to catch up ever since. And then when you see the systemic things that are put in place, I'm reading a book right now. It is The Race for Profit, which is talking about the housing industry and, how we had systemic things. And the most basic form of wealth is real estate, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
So when you're talking about us being able to invest, home ownership, the value of that, and then we're able then to transfer wealth.
Yes.
Which is something that we have struggled with in terms of generational transfer of wealth.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And that's one of our leading products when we talk about eliminating the racial wealth gap is through home ownership. And so our product is unique in that we're able to work with borrowers who have a credit score as low as 580. They could be 1 year out of a discharge bankruptcy, no traditional lines of credit. And our mortgage product, we portfolio it. We never sell our products because we believe in the individuals that we're investing in, and there's no PMI on that product. So yeah, it's
What's
a
PMI?
Private mortgage insurance that typically you have if you have less than 20%. They don't come in here using acronyms, Pamela. I'm sorry.
Right. You're at work, right? You just, I had a boss,
Right.
and part of my job was responding to customer complaints. She said, "Now you remember they have not had the 1,000 hours of training that you have.
Yeah,
You're just dropping all the acronyms
I know, right?
and people." But that's basically people who you take out mortgage insurance, right?
Mhm, yes. And it protects the financial institution, not the consumer.
And just a kind of a general question, this little inside baseball. Usually that's about 5 years.
Yeah, until there's 20%
Equity.
equity in the property. Mhm.
So
Yeah.
we hear this term equity, right?
Mhm.
We're not so much talking about equality now, but equity. How do you all support equity in our community? Some of the ways, I mean, you just talked about some of the investments that you make, or some other ways that you're supporting or trying to build equity in our community.
So I think through investment in, events, we're one of the sponsors for the Freedom Ball. So just looking for opportunities to serve, partner with organizations. I mean, collaboration is the key when we look at what needs to happen in the community. So we always look for strong partnerships because we know we can do more together. So we're always looking for opportunities to partner and strengthen, providing free financial coaching to all of our members. And the beauty of that particular program is that it's driven by the member. It's so easy to provide a financial planning guide that we would say, but really having them engage around what their goals are and kind of mapping it out and letting them know that, if we map this out and in the first 3 months it's not working, come back and visit us. There's no don't be disappointed, don't be ashamed. Let's rework this until we get it to where it needs to be so that you can get to that finish line, whatever it may be for you.
How important is it as to begin to start talking to young people and children where it is aspirational for them to get property, and then all the things you need to do? We talk about your credit score. How important, how early should we be talking about this to young folks?
I believe that we should be talking to kids about credit between the ages of 1 and 5. And that is when they learn the most. Statistics shows that the reason that the economy is the way it is because at school we were taught, like everyone here was taught how to dissect an animal, right? Everybody?
Yes.
Were we taught about credit at school?
Poor Froggy.
I'm just saying we were taught things in school that we never used,
Yes.
but we needed to know about credit. We needed to know, how do we pay our bills? We needed to know how to cash a check, how to deposit a check. We were taught literally the least things that we would need in the real life today. So I think informing kids early on and just telling them, playing games with them on, like I have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I play games with them on money. Like, you have $5, I take away this amount, how much do you have? And making it fun so that it doesn't feel like, it's a learning environment. And my kids, like, they know because I'm teaching them something that I didn't get taught. Like, and it wasn't my mother's fault that she wasn't taught that. It was, if you go to school, you pass down what you get as a parent. So I truly believe that we should start talking about this very early on, making sure that our kids understand that credit is more important to me than money, because at the end of the day, that is where you get the equity. Pam was talking about, the credit scores and things like that. Like, I myself have seen my credit go from 750 to 613 by doing bad habits again. So just changing your mindset and understanding that, with a positive mindset, and changing your mindset to believe that you can and will get the things that you ask God for, that He will provide them for you. But most importantly, understanding that with equity, it doesn't stop when you buy a house. After you buy the house, I see a lot of banks. I've been a banking 20 years. I've seen a lot of banks teach you how to just get the house, but then you go back to your old habits, your old spending ways once you get the house. That is where I see the biggest gap in our culture is we get the house, but then we can never use our equity because you have to go back to the bank and then your credit score is back at 513. And then they tell you, well, you can't use your equity because your credit score is not good enough now.
And I think too, like when we talk about just culturally, having those children sit down at the table when we're doing bills so that they can see what's coming into the household. And I know you're chuckling because we don't do that.
I'm
But
chuckling because I had to go pay bills. So
listen, your mama had it together.
Oh, man, I could tell you Fleet Mortgage, tell you We Energy. What we did, it was Wisconsin Gas, Wisconsin Electric, and back in the day, what did he say? We're gonna put something on the bill. We did a whole lot of putting something on the bill.
Listen,
not the mortgage though. The mortgage we had to pay, but everything else we put a little something. So you learn.
Yeah.
And how important is teaching young people savings?
Incredibly important. I mean, it's developing that habit, right? The pattern. I think it's, we are we're in a right now era that, if we see something, we want it right away, but being disciplined to save and plan for something instead of spontaneous spending. And I'm maybe talking to myself more than I'm talking to someone else, but
Amen.
it's incredibly, but it's incredibly important to plan and have a habit of paying yourself.
We have the good folks here. Again, the credit union is
Self-Help Federal Credit Union.
We have Miss Irenda Jones. We have Miss Pamela Bell, and we have Miss Olivia Thompson.
Yes.
Lost in the dark.
Come on, guys. Come on, sir.
And again, they're part of the Freedom Ball Organizing Committee. Again, if people want tickets, they can go to
Northcott's website, and then there's a link to the Freedom Ball.
Really nice meeting you, young ladies.
Nice
Nice
meeting you.
meeting
as
you
well.
guys.
You as
Are you
well.
all in the Juneteenth parade?
Yes.
Well, we will see you in the Juneteenth parade.
Yes.
We were joking. They're still finishing that parade from last year. That was a long parade. You're listening to Community Voice. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Thank you, ladies. All right. I kept hearing, I'm so frustrated. I'm frustrated with the whole mess over at NPS. And I'm really frustrated that the dude's name is Keith. Man. Because when I kept hearing, and the way Michelle kept saying Keith, it's like, I don't like the way you saying that. Then you play a Keith Sweat song. All right, it's like Keith. They had a joke on Family Guy that Keith was the worst name in the English vocabulary. So anyway, I have I talked, Rhonda and I, we were talking about this full transparency. We voted for in favor of the referendum. Um, and so I guess the question I have is there a difference? Okay, if we knew what we knew prior to passing the referendum that we are knowing now and things are coming out now, would that referendum had passed? And that,
I would just venture to say, for me, I voted against.
okay.
So I think an individual like such as yourself would be the one to be able to answer that. Would you have supported it in hindsight?
When I was listening to the discussion this morning, the question that I had was, are these two different things, right? Is the need for cash the same as people not doing?
Well, Keith, I guess the question becomes, how do you, when you haven't done your fiscal books, you're not, up to date on where you're at, how do you even know what your needs are?
Right.
When you throw a number on the table of 200 and some odd $million, 256 or something like that. What was it?
Well, I forgot now, 280?
Two, well over two.
It was over 200. Yeah.
And how do you then know, projected wise what you need when you haven't closed the books on at least a year? You're behind.
Right.
And then even at that, I would venture to say that nobody knew that 300 jobs were going to be subjected, or positions, not necessarily that somebody was even occupying them, but I mean, all of that was not disclosed prior to.
Well, the interesting piece was I had saw something, and you have to take what you see on Facebook as with face value. I mean,
Right.
You got a
Grain of salt.
and the whole piece. Well, let me say this, and then I'll talk about what I saw there. Be it a former government bureaucrat, timelines are important. And if your only job is to make sure that necessary paperwork is completed accurately and on time, that in my mind is I have very low tolerance for people, because that's what you're paid to do. So then the questions, it opens up more questions than answers. Now, someone commented again on Facebook that the person who's responsible for some of their fiscal stuff, I don't think is a trained accountant, right? Now, I understand how it works.
Why would she hold a position?
There are a lot of people who are responsible for the fiscal part of your organizations who do not have accounting backgrounds. They might be very good with numbers. I always find it very fascinating. And again, this is anecdotal, but I bet a dime to a donut, and a lot of the governmental agencies that you see, the people who tend to handle the money, that the people who deal with contracts, the people who deal with audits, the people who deal with disbursements and all these things, people usually running those departments are usually not people who look like you and I. What people like you and I will get in government is personnel. Now, people go like, oh man, you getting paid the same money, right? But it's a real big difference when your whole job is to manage grants, write grants, the whole thing, as opposed to having to supervise people. Because when you have to supervise people, you're dealing with the human factor, which means that if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. You're dealing with human behavior. So they said that person then who was in that position probably should not have been in that position based on their background and training. Now, some people will argue with you that, well, some of these things is pretty much a boilerplate. You just follow the format, you stick the numbers in, you put the narrative in. But the fact that they are so far behind, here's the other piece of it. And a school board director kind of hinted this little fact. I don't know if it was Channel 12, was outside her door, knocked on the door, asked a question. The question everybody's asking is, when did you know? And they're talking about now the people on the Milwaukee School Board of Directors. When did you know that these things were not happening. And so when he was interviewing a young lady through the door, she asked, "Is it off the record?" And then he said, "No, I can't do it off the record. I'm here. I got the camera rolling. No, it's not off the record." And then she said, "Oh, we found out when we got the letter." So that means that Aisha wasn't the only one who knew what the deal was down there in terms of that. And the school board has a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that all those fiscal things need to happen. I'm assuming that the director, when the superintendent meets with the school board of directors to bring them updates, these are things that people need to be made aware of. And I know how it can be in an organization where all of a sudden you look up and there's a problem. Ask SDC. This is not something that just happened, right? And so,
but isn't that kicking the can down the road? I mean,
oh,
there were red flags. There had to be.
There had to be red flags. I mean, and I don't know who is the fiscal hawk on the school board. You know, that one person who's always there, want to make sure every dollar is accounted for. I don't know who that person is. Now, let me say this to the community. Just an observation. It's one thing to go down there and want to tear up the place when stuff like this comes out. But we're not down there tearing up the place when we have a 15% competency level when it comes to reading. We're not tearing up the joint then. So for a lot of folks, I'll be there tonight. For a lot of folks who go down there because you want to see the fight, you need to get off that nonsense, right? Because after all of this,
I shouldn't come?
You should come. I'm just.
Well, you said I want to see. I want to see.
I know. It's that alley over there between 16th and 15th Street on Keith Avenue where we used to fight for Parkland. Yeah, so we'll show up for the drama, right? We show up for that. I mean, we there and we gonna clown and I want to be heard and the whole piece. But once the cameras are off, right? Once the drama the passions have kind of calmed down, then the question becomes, now where are we? Because over and beyond where MPS is fiscally, we still have a whole performance issue that we're dealing with MPS. And I agree with Michelle. We need to be careful how we have this public conversation because there are some people out there who are going to take what is being said, use that then as a reason, say, look, the people in the community want something done. So why don't we do this? And then when they start talking about those things they did, like when they were talking about school takeovers, when Chris Abele was in office and Scott Walker was governed, they was talking about taking over schools. We're all up in arms. We don't want to see that. So we have to have a more, I hate to use the word, a more intelligent conversation that's not about the passions and our feelings, really about how we're going to fix where we are. Because as Sister Pamela said, we always say children are our future. Well, for some of us, it's cliche. But for others of us, it's really about our survival. And so I think that when we go in. So with that said, and the good Lord willing, creek don't rise, I hope to be there tonight standing back with Debo. So when it jump off, we hitting it. Carla, welcome to the program.
You gonna have your press badge on?
Yes, sir. No, really, I am. Michelle, we were talking about that this morning. Debo said, should he wear his? I'm gonna wear mine.
Keith, it was a couple of things that you kind of touched on that I was gonna speak about till you hit that. But when you say all up in arms, Keith, I know a whole lot of educators. So when you talk about that 15%, we ain't getting upset when your kids coming to school just acting like a holy terror,
right?
Tearing up the classroom, right? Cussing out the teachers, starting fights, not coming prepared, learning how to read and stuff like that. So we ain't getting up in arms about that. Now, I'm not saying what's going on people shouldn't be up in arms about, but Keith, you absolutely right. Because Keith, I know a whole bunch of educators, trust me. We have no idea how hard their job is. It's really rough. And I'll be looking at them and my heart goes out to them for them to be doing that job for our kids. We need to be giving them praise and thanks. You have no idea, a lot of y'all, what's going on in these schools with y'all, with your kids. and how a lot of these kids are coming in. And I'm not saying a bunch of them, because all it takes is one or two knuckleheads. And trust me, one or two, three knuckleheads in your classroom,
look at those
how
test
it can
scores.
disturb it.
You look at those test scores, it's a significant number of students there who are suffering. And here's the interesting piece. Almost 25% of MPS's student population is special needs. So how would you put in jeopardy 25% of your budget, right? Because of incompetency.
But the thing I called to talk about before you got off on the other subject about raising the holy terror, Keith, I was the treasurer of an organization. I'm not going to say what, because I know people are probably listening. But when I volunteered, so like you said, Keith, there's a bunch of us that we may know how to budget our good at math and know how to budget our bills and all this, pay Peter and all that kind of stuff. So when I stepped up to be the treasurer, because the other person got tired of being the treasurer, Keith, they didn't give me no training, what to do, handed me a bag. Here you go. Yeah. I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Okay, so I'm trying to figure this out going down the road. Okay, I think I'm getting a good grasp on everything. Now, there's other people that could put their hands in that till. Not come to me first and say, George, this is what I want to do, blah, 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 what we got in the pot and all this kind of stuff. So people going in there prior and then coming to me afterwards. That's what happens if something goes wrong. Guess who they're going to be looking at?
Your treasurer.
Me.
Yep.
Or anybody else in that position. So some personal things came up in my life at that time. I'm like, no, I'm stepping down from this. So Keith, you're right. A lot of us that stepping in those positions. And look at what's the dude that's in the NRA, Lampier or whatever.
Yeah.
Look out of it.
LaPierre.
And so a lot of that stuff, you just don't know how many of these people be putting their tills, spending that money personally and all that kind of stuff. So you're right, Keith. A lot of people that take on those roles, they're not accountants, they're not experienced in that stuff. They call themselves, trying to do something good for the organization. And a lot of people, when we watch the news too, Keith, a lot of treasurers, if you watch the news correctly, they be dipping their hands in that, spending that money too.
George.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are you in any way comparing whatever your organization may have been, but it cannot certainly rise to the level of an MPS?
Oh, heck no. I was just making an example what Keith said when he said a lot of people aren't trained in those positions.
I get it what you're saying, but it's hard for me to fathom, just in my mind of minds. I'm no scholar, but to think that an organization that deals with the amount of monies that an MPS would be dealing with, whomever that financial officer is, chief financial officer or whatever, is not a trained individual. That just doesn't sit right with me.
Well, let me give you an example.
If that be the case, then there's a problem there.
Let me give you an example, Debo. Do you have to have special training, anything, to be on the school board?
Nope.
No, but
okay.
So you're telling me one of the...
So who sets policy, Debo?
The board.
Okay. So I could get on the board and I know nothing. What do they call it? What does Al say? Sugar, honey, iced tea, to Shinola. Now, I know nothing about the job, but if I'm popular enough to get that job, I can get that position.
So now, you're telling me one of the school board
I tell Keith Mosley what to
representatives actually runs the money.
Yeah, but
I'm not saying that, but they run policies. So what I'm saying, there's probably a whole lot of incompetent people that are in these positions. That's what I'm trying to say, Debo.
And I agree. I think what George is saying on a micro level, this is really macro, right? Because we're talking about a $1.5 billion budget. But it's also the culture of the place, right? Anybody that's worked in government, I can tell you that there is a culture. If your culture is about timeliness, getting things done when they're supposed to get done, that is enforced. If you have a culture where people are kind of, for whatever reasons,
willy-nilly, just,
we gonna get
right,
to it.
I
appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
It's really, and I just know, because I know what it's like to deal with the state, and the fact that the state was having monthly. Well, they started off monthly meetings, and then they became quarterly, then monthly. That means that this had been an issue for a while. And so I can clearly understand the sentiment that people feel like there's been bait and switch. You tell us there's a problem, but you're not being fully and I guess people wouldn't. And you know what I thought about with two instances. I thought about when we back, I want to say 2020, the mayor's race, where Barrett knew prior to all of this stuff coming out with lead contamination, and they kept it quiet because it would have jeopardized his reelection. That became the fact, and then Bevan Baker then became the fall guy. I also think about what happened in Chicago with Laquan McDonald. Everybody know Laquan McDonald, 16 shots, the kid that was killed. They knew a whole year before everything had eked out, and it was prior to the election. Rahm Emanuel was running prior to the election, and so they basically covered it up. So is this the same thing? When we're looking at what NPS did, coming asking for the money. And again, I'm being a little nuanced in terms of, obviously there was a third party, Wisconsin Public Policy Forum, that said that in fact NPS needed the money. I don't know how much they knew about their internal accounting and the issues there, because this really is an internal accounting fiscal issue. And so I don't think they know, but it seems on the surface that they knew, and that people still came out, and they had to know that had it been prior to, people would have pushed back and said, no, I probably wouldn't have voted for it in retrospect. And if it was voted down, NPS would have had our opportunity, one, to go and take care of their little fiscal house, and two, then bring it back for the November cycle, if that was the fact. So I understand the anger, and I understand the frustration that people have. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning. Good morning. All right, go. All right. 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. Here we go. Excuse me. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning. Are we on? Yep. You click it? Yeah. I thought you clicked it. All right, there you go. Oh, there you go. My bad. Caller, welcome to the program.
Oh, welcome, Keith. Morning, you gentlemen. Two questions. One, I'll do this one first. You had the ladies on there from Northcott. I think we need to clarify. I'm not real sure. I called there and I looked online. She said you couldn't get a ticket at all. You have to buy a table for $1,500 now, divided by 10. If it's 10 people at the table, that's $150. But I said, why are we on radio advertising? You need to tell us the price, the time it starts. But if it's a group setting, or you're looking for corporations, because who's looking to buy a table for $1,500 and put 10, 15 people at it? They didn't even explain that right. But I talked to the lady and I said, how can I get a ticket then? She said, oh, no, those are those are $1,500 for a table. We're not selling them individually. I'm just trying to comprehend what they were saying on the video.
I'll do follow up and get with
you. Know what I'm saying? Yeah, she told me. I called. Yeah, I called, and she transferred to a number that's box is full. So I'll try to hit Elizabeth up. But I'm like, I wouldn't mind doing the ball myself. I'm very difficult trying to decide to volunteer. I do a lot of volunteer work. I love kids and teens. I just do not need complications when you volunteer. A lot of this kids stuff, teens areas and stuff like that, and security type stuff. It's very difficult with the climate it is today. And the other one is that the food trucks are not only slow, it's almost offensive to go work any faster, and you hire your family and friends, and when you complain, you're really complaining about people's kids. Please open those trucks up and hire people. Find people in the neighborhood, schools, anybody, to have teenagers help you serve the food. Because I just want water, which I think everybody should be carrying their own water, dehydration, or you're just very thirsty. Why would I wait 45 minutes in line for a dinner and I need just beverages? So I like to know a couple of things. Is it going to be a specific beverage truck, or are you going to try to get a beverage truck? Because if I want something to drink and I'm dehydrated and it's always a nice day, warm out. Where do you get food at for 45 minutes waiting in line? I don't believe in waiting in line that long because I don't need to eat like that. I'll bring some raw veggies myself in there. I don't care about a $20 turkey leg for 45 minutes. You need to get more people on those trucks. And I think one of said that people are reluctant to hire anybody other than their family because you need more people and you need to rotate them people. So I see a lot of problems that I like Juneteenth Day. I'm just leery, and I got a couple calls from people in Texas that could you help volunteer. I really like to, and I can get 5 or 6 people to help volunteer that I know, but they're only going to go if I kind of go and say, hey, kind of talk them into it. But they're very reluctant with the teens, very reluctant, okay, with the problems. They go back to the old school day. But the other one, I like to know, what is the cost of a ticket? You come on, the tickets are this much here. We're selling by the table. We're selling them here, and it's dinner and reception starts at this time here. It took me a few minutes to find the website, and then when I called to ask what's a single ticket was, they told me $1,500 for a table. They're not selling individual. Well, who are you advertising to? The businesses only? Because I don't know how many businesses you're going to get, and it's hardly donating the building to you because you for that high price. You're not going to get that kind of a sellout like that. Come on. And I'm sorry, I go kind of fast, so I need a clarification on that because I wouldn't mind contributing that way, okay? The other one is that they're talking about the school board. Now, I heard, and I'm not sure if this is true, over the weekend, somebody said, well, they thought that the accountant there was not even a CPA getting $180,000 a year. Right. 180, a CPA. The same thing happened over in Glendale and River Hills earlier this spring. They had a problem with somebody they had hired. Of course, when they hire the young people, they know everything, which they don't, and then hire them, and the girl messed up all the money of like millions of dollars, okay, delivered it. The other one, Mr. Posey, now he's getting $360-some a year. Is that an extension from before? Because I thought he was getting $2-something, okay? He not only walked out the door. You know, it's cold. It's time to say goodbye. Okay. Then we need to turn around. Everybody on that school board that voted. We don't need to wait for them to get out of office. Okay. We need to boot them out. If you even got a high school diploma, you don't have to have any of that. As long as you got standards and morals about yourself and you got the good Lord bless you, we need to come up in here and get them seats from them people. I'm not trying to be funny. And now we got SDC. It's gone. Okay. No one wants to mention the name, Mr. Hinton, who was over at the hospital over here in Aurora for a while, and then he was out about a year and then turned around and got the job over here. Now, I'd heard he's critically sick. He hasn't been living here in quite some time in Milwaukee running the show. Okay, let's just put that out there. Now you got the Head Start program. And then all of a sudden we got the school. Where are we going with our children and people just in general, my taxes? The other question I need to know, and maybe Michelle or somebody can answer this for us, what can we do to put this money on hold before giving it to the school in 2025 with these property taxes? Everybody kumbaya. I'm not a kumbaya for anybody and their kids. Not at all. I'm about what's right and what's morally right. We don't need to be giving this money out. We need the feds to come in here on the audit on all 3 of them programs, okay? And they already coming here for childhood early education. We need to halt this money, and they didn't give us the true story. And Mr. Posey to come out one time on the true story of what was going on with this school. So the only person need to be laid off is him. But everybody, I'm just saying this is unfair, and we need to come in here with a audit. And somebody ain't got a CPA or whatever. Even if they have a CPA, they can still be crooks out here. And that's like an investment company. If there's only one person running it, your money's not going to be there for you. Okay, I'm just telling you that.
But
okay?
I guess my frustration is that large bureaucracies, these people, this is what you're paid to do, right? I mean, and you know this because we have things that we have, let's say in child support or when I worked at DHHS, right? Yes. That there's certain things that it's a no-brainer. It has to be in on time. It has to be accurate. And again, that's if in fact I don't know how you could be all these months behind, and it sounds like they're years behind. I don't know how you're able to do that. And nobody says anything.
That because if you need an extension, you need to say, I need to get an extension. We had some people on leave. We had some people that quit, fired, or went into another job. We need a little bit of help. It's going to be a delay, but we're going to get this in. You have not a right to not respond. That's why I'm asking for a federal probe. And if we need to get signatures during the summer to recall all these school board people, let's get on our job and do it. Don't feel inferior that I can't do this. I don't have a PhD. I don't want nobody with a PhD.
But to change the whole board with people coming in with no clear understanding of how it works. Again, you don't have to be a person trained in pedagogy, right? Right. To be on the school board, though I think that's helpful in terms of how children learn. And then it opens up this whole door, and I know we're going to begin to hear it from Republicans, where they want to apply a business model to education. The problem with applying to a business model to education is that
they did it to themselves. They did it to themselves. So whatever comes in, you just have to. That's the way it's going to be. But it's just like with I'm not going to mention his name in the county when they took our backdrop and they kept changing the multiplier. You got a new person coming in, and I only been here 6 months or a year. I'm training that person, so that it gets lost in the training transaction of how to file this stuff and send it to the state. Because you got different people coming in. Everybody ain't completely trained right, and somebody gonna train somebody different. So it kind of falls apart, and they start putting their own personal spin on what they think it need to be done. We need a federal probe, okay, in childhood education, which they're working on, a social development commission, okay, and the school. This is not even right. So we need a clean house.
All right.
And I don't believe in cleaning house. Well, you're not going to do another 4 years. That little job don't pay that much anyway. People just take that for whatever. I'm telling you now.
All right.
Now don't let me find my school board person voted for that, which it sounded like they did because only one person didn't. And we need to bring Miss Carr back on the radio. I don't give a damn see those 3 blocks out. I want to talk to somebody what's right. So you got standards and morals about yourself. And those that have voted for all that stuff and know what's going on, don't go to services anymore and don't even pray because the Lord can't help you.
All right. Appreciate you. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, this is Quintera Sifrant. I'm supposed to talk with Keith today at 10.
Hey, Dr. Sifrant, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Keith?
I'm doing well. Happy New Year, because I haven't seen you this year, have I?
Oh my goodness gracious!
It's been a while since.
Yeah.
Again, let's do it. We have a break. Let's do this. I'm asking you to hang on. We're going to do a break, and then we come back. We'll have our conversation.
Sounds great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, let's get out of here. With Audible, we could root for a lone astronaut as he tries to save Earth from disaster. Maybe go for a run with the founder of the world's biggest sneaker brand. We could get the tea on the real-life media mogul succession drama. Or find out what life is really like for an Oscar-winning actress. I mean, with Audible, we could go anywhere. There's more to imagine when we listen. Hear the latest audiobooks, podcasts, and originals at audible.com.
Remarkable change begins with daring to be different. Baby, I'm on a mission with Boost Mobile, putting the latest phones in the hands of more people. Introducing the signature Coach Prime Racer, only from Boost Mobile. Rush to your nearest Boost Mobile retailer and get your signature Coach Prime razor on us. Get after it.
When you switch in with ID verification, select plans only. Offer valid 4/19/24 through 5/23/24. While supplies last. Taxes extra. New customers only. Must remain active and in good standing on the $60 a month plan for 6 months to receive all credits. Offer subject to change.
Hello, I'm Vanessa, co-chair of the Juneteenth vendors.
I am Frank, co-chair of the Juneteenth volunteers.
Juneteenth is fastly approaching and space is always limited. So if you have an interest in being a vendor, you need to sign up today.
Juneteenth would not be successful unless we have volunteers. We need volunteers for a multitude of different areas. So companies, corporations, organizations, Divine Nine, even families, please sign up to be volunteers today.
So call Northcott Neighborhood House today at 414-372-3770.
Vendors and volunteers call today at 414-372-3770.
Thank you.
The Granville Blues Fest is an annual celebration of blues music held in Granville, a vibrant neighborhood known for its rich cultural heritage and love for the blues. This festival typically spans a weekend, drawing both local enthusiasts and blues aficionados from afar. The event features an impressive lineup of regional and national talented blues musicians and bands, showcasing a diverse range of styles within the genre, from soulful ballads to electrifying guitar solos. Attendees are treated to a dynamic array of performances that capture the essence of the blues. In addition to live music, the Granville Blues offers a variety of activities and attractions to engage visitors of all ages. The festival creates a vibrant and inclusive atmosphere where people from all walks come together to appreciate the power and beauty of the blues. Granville Blues Fest, June 14th through the 16th at Granville Connection, 8633 West Brown Deer Road.
WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee. You're inside Community Voice on WNOV 860 AM and 106.5 FM with your host, Keith Parris.
Welcome back, and you might have heard before we've gone to break, we have on the line with us Dr. Katara Souffrant. She is the Milwaukee Art Museum's curator of community dialogue, and she's back with us again. And she's here to talk about something that they're doing this week at the Art Museum, celebrating freedom.
Hi, Keith. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. It's so good to talk to you.
You too. So tell us a little bit about what's happening this Thursday at the Milwaukee Art Museum.
Yeah, so this Thursday we're hosting our Free Day and celebration, and the theme of it is freedom. So as you know, cost can be a barrier to visiting the museum and experiencing art and all the wonder that it has to offer. And so the Free Days and celebration are days when the museum is free, admissions, and more. So I would encourage everyone listening to think about the Free Days as a block party. There's going to be music, art making, free tours of our collection, film screenings, and talks. And it's really a way to introduce everyone to the museum in a way that celebrates community and aims to be a fun gathering. And this Thursday in particular, we're celebrating freedom because June allows us the opportunity to celebrate both Juneteenth and Pride. And so all of our activities are going to be amplifying Black and LGBTQIA artists.
So is there a feature artist or is just a collection of different artists?
That's actually a great question because I would say that the feature artists, and if you check out the museum's website for the Free Day, you'll see that there's a group of people standing in front of this large drape painting. And that painting was made by an African-American artist named Sam Gilliam, who unfortunately transitioned a few years ago. And Sam Gilliam was an abstract artist. So he's someone who's not painting everyday life like we see it. He's really thinking about color, line, and shape and gesture as a way of expressing emotions. And for him, that was about freedom and creativity. So I would say Sam Gilliam is like our secret hero and our public hero of the Free Day celebration. And the day ends with a talk about his work by the superstar curator, Valerie Cassell Oliver from Virginia, who also happens to be of African descent.
It's interesting that I never thought about when you think about June as being Freedom Month in terms of two marginalized communities, that being descendants of enslaved Africans, but also the LGBTQ community. I think that this will be that's Stonehenge, right, where they had the revolt. Okay, and so that's why Pride Month is celebrated in the same month as Juneteenth.
Yeah, and for me, it's really a great opportunity to think about intersections and how we don't live separate lives, and to think about these two communities that actually are meant to be seen as separate, but have actually moved together in many ways. And I would say one way that I'm excited to showcase that is we've partnered with PBS Wisconsin in order to screen Wisconsin Pride, part 1 and 2, all day at the museum. And both of these show both how Wisconsin has been at the forefront of the LGBTQIA movement in the nation, but also like all of these Wisconsin powerful voices from Indigenous, Black, and of color communities who've been fighting for rights and freedom as well.
Now you said that that's the only screening, the only movie that you're going to be screening. Are there other movies?
That's the only movie for this Free Day and celebration that we're going to be screening, the 2-part documentary from PBS Wisconsin. But there's more to do than watch the films too.
Have we've done something? I say we, right?
Yes, we have, Keith. You are a big collaborator and supporter.
Because what was it the backyard situation? Was that in June or was that later or earlier?
Oh, I think you're thinking about Lakeside at MAM, and
Right.
that was our free outdoor summer experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Was that in June?
That was in, well, your memory is actually correct. So that launched in June 2021.
Right.
And then the last few summers, it's been mostly July and August.
Because that was that when the mural?
The Derek Adams mural. So you're thinking about the block party, our first block party ever, and that was in May of 2022. You've got a good memory.
Yeah. Well, that was
Yeah,
nice.
so I would say that block party around African-American artist Derek Adams and Black Lives, that really was the springboard for thinking about our Free Day celebrations. Like, what does it mean to gather and have fun, and to thinking about live music and DJing in the museum. So the lineup of the day is very rooted in that kind of block party, full campus-wide experiences.
What is the time?
The Free Day starts at 10 a.m. when we open on Thursday, and it goes until 8 p.m. when we close.
So even the students who might still be in school, I think a lot of students, Wednesday might be their last day. They can still get there after school.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of being able to have the Free Days on a Thursday. I'm hoping that it means that all who want to come can come, given their work and school schedules.
Man, I always appreciate this, and certainly when it's a free day, I think, and you've done such a great job of really apprising the community to why this is such a great benefit for our community in terms of art.
Thank you. And I couldn't do it without you, Keith, and the platform that you offer. So thank you so much.
Oh, you can just thank the good folks here at WNOV for that. And I tell you, every time I go down and I tell people, I think Lindsay was in and we were talking. I just said to one, if nothing else, get to the bookstore.
Yes.
I mean, just all the great stuff that I've been able to buy, from books to my favorite T-shirt, one of my favorite T-shirts of all time, Black Art Matters. Which was done by a Black designer. So I think access to that, as an educator, why is it important to expose young people to art?
I think it allows you to think about the possibilities and broaden your horizons and to think outside the box. And I will say that one of my most poignant experiences at the museum actually is, we know Milwaukee, we know that it's quite possible to live and die in your neighborhood and sort of not leave your blocks. But there have been moments where it's a predominantly Black school and they come to the museum and they run to Lake Michigan because they've never seen it before. They're like, is that the ocean? Like, what is that? And that is that spark of possibility that I think beauty and art offers, right? You get to see a world beyond what you thought was possible. And that to me is a sign of freedom, right? You are unhindered and unlimited.
And we've found that culture, societies, one of their societal pillars a lot of times is things like art, right? Because not only is it creative, it's also part of the narrative.
Absolutely. It's capturing our history. It's capturing where we've been, where we're going. And artists are truly visionaries. They're also documenting what they hope the future could be like.
So again, do you just, because it's a free day, you don't have to register in advance? You can just show up?
Just show up as you are. We're going to have art making and live DJing by DJ Bizon and DJ Drip Sweat. And there's Keith, I'd love to see you at noon for the drop-in Freedom Break yoga class with Lorenza Edwards from DJ Yoga.
That. Was it last year? It was packed. It was packed in terms of that yoga class and people being there. Yeah, I probably will. I just love being in the art museum. It's just like it takes you to a world. And again, I really want to thank you because it really, you opened up the door. And I think that a lot of people didn't even think that I could even go down to the art museum, or why would I even see any value in the art museum? And I think you've done a great job in exposing our community to the importance of art and the beautiful art that they can be exposed to.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you. That means a lot to me.
Oh,
I'm getting misty-eyed. Stop.
Are they doing tracing this year?
Tracing, you said?
Yes.
No, I don't think so. Let me get back to you on that.
It was interesting because I was down and they had all these pictures of Ralph Metcalf. I think I told you the story.
Yes.
And
yes.
I thought, oh man, they're giving away pictures of Ralph Metcalf. Ralph Metcalf has, ties to Milwaukee. He's a graduate of Marquette University. And so I was going like, no. And then I looked, it's like, oh no, they used this for tracing.
Yeah, so you're talking about our art projects that we do, and they change every free day, and every month we have a new art project. So this one is actually going to be inspired by Sam Gilliam, that artist who I mentioned, who is our hero of the day. And then also Blessing Clark, who's the founder of A Piece of Abundance, a local member of our community. She's also going to be leading an art activity. So it's a surprise, but come down. It's all rooted in freedom.
It's amazing because I didn't realize that this was a thing. Adult coloring. I did not know.
Adult coloring.
Yes, adult
coloring is for everyone.
Right, but for me, it was like one of those things we talked about it. Right, it's one of those early kind of pedagogic things you get. Can you stay in the line? You stay within the lines, and I don't know if that's a societal control piece, like the people who tend to color outside the lines are probably going to be our revolutionaries.
Keith, I think you bring up a really great point, because I think that exposure to the art museum for our younger folks, so for our caregivers who are listening, it opens them up to possibilities, right? And it makes them feel like there's more to the world than they thought possible. And for us adults who sometimes get out of touch with our creativity and get conformed a little bit, I think that's what it does too. It sparks our sense of rebellion and what's possible. And color outside the lines, Keith. What's gonna
Well, I colored out the lines because I had no digital dexterity. It had nothing to do with me being a future revolutionary. It had everything to do with I had no control of the crayon, right? So it would be like everywhere. Then I had other people like my brother, who is so really artistic and creative, and how he was able, the proper shading of the color. I got like streaks and it's all outside the line. I'm getting frustrated. So anyway.
No, all are welcomed in our art studio. It's great to see creatives of all ages there.
Can you as we can you do me a favor though? We're gonna end the conversation, but there was someone who reached out to me and they said my wife would like to receive the name and telephone number, so we're gonna pass her number on to you. I think she says it might be something that might be beneficial to some of the things that you're doing down there at the Art Museum.
That sounds great.
Okay. So again, give us the date, the time, and the information.
Yeah, it is Thursday, June 6th is our free day from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Milwaukee Art Museum. And for more information, visit mam.org or Google Free Day and Celebration Milwaukee Art Museum.
You know, I just caught what you asked me. No, I'm not coming down to do yoga. I'm gonna watch them do yoga. Good job. Good job. You almost had me. I was going, yeah, I'll be down. I don't even
I thought you were in. I thought I was gonna see you with your yoga mat with Lorenzo and all the other brothers doing yoga.
I have to get a mat. I have to get the yoga gear.
I will.
I don't even what do dude's yoga gear look like. What does male yoga gear look like?
You know, my husband did one of the drop-in yoga classes over the summer with Lorenzo, and he's kept going.
Okay.
And it's really an amazing group of Black men that Lorenzo is cultivating. But, you know, like your walking pants and like a shirt. If you sweat a lot, get one of those Moisture Wick shirts. Like, it's not that deep. You're good.
DJ Drip Sweat. I love it. That's one of the greatest DJ handles ever. DJ
I
Drip
love
Sweat.
her.
Oh
I
my
love
God.
her.
That is
She's
a good
so great.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what I want you to do, I want you to hang on.
Okay.
And the producer will pass on the information, the number for you to follow up with the call. Okay.
Thank you so much, Keith.
Thank you. And I will probably be there Thursday at 11.
Oh, great. An hour before yoga. I can't wait to see you.
What else you got for me?
I'll see you soon.
No. What else you got for me?
I got art making. I've got the community engagement
My
fair.
T-shirt. My T-shirt.
Keith, I gave you that
You never gave me that T-shirt.
I never gave it to
You
you.
never gave me the T-shirt.
Oh,
We kept
Keith,
missing
you
each
know
other.
what? You are telling the truth because it is looking straight at me. I just opened up my drawer and I literally just, it's in my hand, Keith. Your T-shirt is in my hand. I am not joking. I'm looking at it right now. Okay, I got it.
Dr. Kadara Sufrat of the Milwaukee Art Museum. Again, hold on. I need to pass some information on to you. Always good talking to you. And we'll probably see you on Thursday.
Wonderful. Thank you, Keith.
All right. So hold on. Let me do this. And I don't want her to go anywhere. All right. 414-444-5250. Again, let's do this. Let's see. That was an interesting question when Michelle asked me what my reaction was to the verdict. I was a little overwhelmed. Not overwhelmed. I was underwhelmed. I was surprised, like I said to her, that it was all 34. Normally, when you have these widespread kind of indictments, people might do a hung. Mrs. Harris. That people might have a hung jury and on certain counts. The fact that it was all 34, and I was listening to, I know what the response is going to be on CNN. I know what the response is going to be on MSNBC. So what I do is I go to Newsmax and Fox, and I was listening to the reaction that the folks were having at Newsmax and Fox. And I don't know where Janine Perillo, I think she's gone to Newsmax. Oh my God, these folks were, they lost their minds. Here's what's interesting. And as you all know, I'm a student of language. Listen to what people say. As the late Joe Madison said, you need to listen with a third ear. Because if we just go on the talking points, we'll get away from the substance of what it is that we're talking about. The fact that all 34 charges were proven, and then the jury decided to find him guilty is damning in and of itself. But when you heard the talking heads, from the Republican Party, and we start off with Mr. Byron Donald, and then Mushmouth himself, Mr. Tim Scott, and all these other folks who came out. Here's what's interesting. They never once said that Trump didn't do it. Let me say that again. They never, and you won't hear them say Trump didn't do it. Their thing was it selective prosecution because they brought this case? The fact that the SDNY, the Southern District of New York feds decided not to bring it. Now, we need to look at context of when this happened and who was in office, right, when this initially happened. So I don't know if the timeline is that the SDNY just thought, well, one, I don't know if they were told to stand down by DOJ. And this is why they declined to prosecute. It could have also been that they were a little gun shy based on what happened with the Edwards case. Everybody know, I can't think, John Edwards, when he was running for president, had an affair with a staffer. She got pregnant. His campaign manager lied and said he was the father of the child to cover it up, so it would not hurt his presidential bid. Well, it all came out. It did hurt his presidential bid, but I think there were hung juries. And so in that particular case, and so maybe that's why SDNY, the Southern District of New York, the feds did not go after it. Alvin Bragg did go after it. And as Michelle said, he did it the way that you're supposed to do it. Let the evidence talk. You don't need to go out and sell it. And then here's another little talking point that I find very interesting. They're mad at the judge for the instructions that the judge gave the jury. You heard every Republican who was out defending Trump said, well, we ain't mad at the jury. Well, it was the jury that decided. And only to find out now that not only has the judge received death threats, I guess the jurors have received death threats. So the issue is a lot of times, and I've seen it on a local level where people come in and they're all upset about who reported it. My question is, did they do it? Okay. No one said he didn't do it. Even the people defending him said that he did it, or implied that he did it, or accepted the fact that he did it. Here's the other thing. This morning, a poll was released where 51% or 50% of Americans believe that the verdict was correct. Only 27% of the people believe that it was an incorrect verdict. That kind of lines up with the numbers when it comes down to who supports Donald Trump, right? He's somewhere in that 30 percentile in terms of his level of support. And what people are saying to him is that you need to be able to expand your base. You're not going to be able to win a presidential election based on your base unless we have issues in Wisconsin, issues in Michigan, issues in Pennsylvania, and issues in Nevada, right? Because those are kind of like the kind of purple states they go with. Arizona, I'm not going to put Arizona in that. We got to see where Arizona is going. But obviously, we know that the 2016 election was decided by Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Same thing true in 2020, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. And then we had, which will probably not happen this time, Georgia. Okay? Because we saw. So when people are out talking and saying that, you're not saying the person's not guilty, you're just mad at the fact that they're trying to hold him accountable for his guilt. If the Republican Party is talking about law and order, and we are dealing with issues of violence in this country, even though the crime rate is dropping, that all it takes is a couple of high-profile shootings or something. I think Fox last week on Monday, they led with the number of people who died in Chicago. right? But people dying everywhere from gun violence. But because what it is this dog whistle, right? It plays into a perception that people have. And I'm going to be honest with you. It's so insidious that many of us have the same perception. Many of us being descendants of enslaved Africans, right? Don't fall for the okie doke. And for all the folks out there who are saying that it doesn't matter if I vote, Negro, you need to wake up. It does matter. And if people can't see the stark differences where it's okay, whether we like it or not, character matters, right? Because what happens is a person with a lack of character who is now the person who's in charge of the nuclear arsenal, a person who has the disposal of the military, who has the disposal of the Department of Justice, he can do a whole lot of damage. And when you hear him saying, him being Donald Trump, that he's going to take revenge out on the people who went after him, you better believe it. So folks are sitting about, he don't mean it. Yeah, he does mean it. Yeah, he does mean it. And he's just that psychotic. Here's the other piece of it. Your perception sometimes is not the reality. People talk about inflation. Oh, it's hitting us hard. But it could have hit us a whole lot harder. And you know what's worse than inflation? Recession. Because that means now people losing jobs. Right now we're dealing with and we had that whole economic discussion a couple of Fridays ago about why it's important to control the money supply in society and what that looks like. But yeah, your inflation has everything to do with COVID and the amount of money that the government pumped into the economy to make sure the economy didn't fail. And we're dealing with the residual effects of that, which is inflation. The price of things go up. Supply chains are affected. Like one of those little things that people don't even realize that might have impact on the cost of automobiles is that accident with the bridge there in Baltimore, because that particular port was the port where cars came in, on ships. So when you kind of look at how we're interconnected, and it does, man, you feel it when you go into the store. You're like, dude, what did I spend? Did I have to spend $100? So that's kind of where we are. Again, if I was underwhelmed, I was just really underwhelmed. And if you don't think that Trump has enormous control over the Republican Party, ask Larry Hogan. Larry Hogan, former governor of the great state of Maryland. I think he was mayor of Baltimore, but he was governor. He was a Republican. He's a moderate. Well, if you're in Maryland, you're probably a moderate Republican, right? I mean, because Maryland is a blue state. He's running for U.S. Senate. He came out before the verdict was announced and said all he said was people should respect the verdict, whether you agree with it or not. And someone from RNC said after he put his statement in, they went to his X account and put right on his X account, and what did they say? It said, your campaign ended today. So what does that mean? That means, because he's already won the primary, that means that the level of support that he's going to get from the RNC is going to be minimal. And he needs all the support he can get in order to win in Maryland. So, and someone just said they had a great opportunity to pick up Maryland because he really is a popular governor, right? Was a popular governor. So there's a lot of moving parts out here in terms of where we're going. I will argue that, as I say, anytime, this is the most existential election we've ever had, because the last one was. And so now we're going forward. So if people, again, you don't think it matters, you want to sit it out, that's on you. But when the stuff hits the fan and you're calling 414-444-5250 complaining about stuff hitting the fan, remember, it might go back to, as Barack Obama said, he said elections have consequences. And who you put into office really, really matters. And you showing up to vote. Here's the other thing. Let's kind of get back locally. when you look at school board elections are usually the participation level. If you get 15% at a school board election, that's normal. 15%. So again, the people that really think it's important a lot of times are people who have been energized by a particular interest group. And so when people say we're going to go in and do a recall, what part of doing a recall is then you have to have candidates who, if you're the people who are initiating the recall, who are in line with your thinking. And again, it is more complicated. I know we've been very, very simplistic because we're kind of dealing with the surface of all of this, but it's far more complicated. It's not a matter of does NPS have enough money. That's a part of it. It's not just a matter of how NPS is using the money. That's a part of it. But then we just kind of have to have, and we've been having this discussion. Isn't it amazing? As a child, the discussion we were having was around desegregation, right? Because what we found out was separate was not equal. So when I was at Parkman, because Parkman was really basically overcrowded, we didn't always have enough textbooks. And the thing about 7th and 8th graders in textbooks is that, if you send it home with them, it may or may not come back to school. You just lose textbooks. That was an example. So this whole idea of, and there are a lot of Black people real comfortable, not a lot, but there are some Black people very comfortable under that system of separate but equal because they're thriving in it, right? They might materially be thriving in that situation. But when we look at the bottom line is how important then is education, and certainly educating our children for our future as a group of people. I think it becomes real important. And I could show just here lately in my life and just observing, I was watching I guess she could be my great goddaughter. And she ended up she was put in preschool at 3. And I don't know if it was K3, and so I saw what happens when you educate a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, right? And just how better suited she was to start school than I was. Because I could barely recognize my name when I was 5 years old. I couldn't spell my name at 5 years old. And a lot of that was because I stayed with an uncle and aunt. And, they weren't educators. They didn't have a clue the importance of the earlier, when you heard Arenda talking about with her children, she said that she started teaching them economic or financial literacy right now, right? That she's programming them to think a certain way. That's important in terms of the education piece. And so what happens, and particularly when it comes to our males, right? Because our males now are disposable. And so what happens is we don't put the same pressure on males to achieve academically as we do on females, right? So with little girls, we're teaching them all these little discipline things that they're going to need to know. My mom said this even back in the day. With our boys, we allow them to play. Okay? We allow them to play. Or there's some people who believe that if you're educated, in their minds, that's feminine. And so masculine behavior is physicality. I know I pushed back last week when someone was saying how we're superior athletes. There's a great danger in doing that because, first of all, race is a construct. It is not real. That has been used, right, to our disadvantage to say that, oh, you're physically talented, but you're intellectually lacking. Physically talented, but intellectually lacking. That's why for many, many years, the perception was that a Black man wasn't smart enough to play quarterback until Terry Bradshaw, who most people would say, even though he comes across, didn't really come across as the sharpest knife in the drawer. Okay? So this idea that somehow we don't think, and then what happens is, because we probably have this great intellectual capability, what we find is then that intellectual capability is pushed into things that are negative, they're not productive. Some of the smartest people on the planet were drug dealers. The drug dealers had a business model that they operated from. They understood supply and demand. They understood pricing. They understood availability, all those things. So those guys that we got out who were selling drugs, how well would they have done if their education was more formalized and they were on a different track? Now, they'd have to push up against discrimination, because discrimination is still real. The reason why we need diversity, equity, and inclusion is because people who look a certain way are still discriminated against. It's systemic. But that doesn't mean that, one, we don't push to knock down the doors, right? If you're making the argument, I hear people, and my mind is a little foul when people talk about immigrants who come in the country. The comparison between those people who come in the country for a better life to come here to work is the same as the migration that many of us who find ourselves in Milwaukee, where our North American roots, not our eternal roots, but our North American roots, was in the South. Places like Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Arkansas, Louisiana, and the living wasn't good. And so then people moved from Louisiana and Georgia and Alabama and the great state of Mississippi and Tennessee. They moved to Chicago and they moved to Milwaukee to work. A better opportunity to provide for your families. So it's the same thing as these people coming from Mexico, El Salvador, right? They're dealing with destabilized governments. I was just watching a piece on the bomb, and, it was on the whole Cold War. And it talks about, and they're still dealing with the residual effects now, how America went in, destabilized the Congo to the point the Congo has never been straight. They went in and destabilized Guatemala and El Salvador, right? Iran. The reason why Iranians hate Americans so much is that for years, the American government trained the secret service and the secret police called Savak in Iran, who tortured and mutilated Iranians. They supported and propped up the Shah of Iran. And so then you had what became the Ayatollah Khomeini, and you had the Islamic Revolution, had everything to do with America destabilizing. And then come to find out that they're doing a little piece on HBO about this virus that America created to go in to cripple the nuclear industry there in Iran. So when you look at what America is doing and people go like, why do they hate Americans so much? Is because America has interfered in so many different countries around the world. They have nothing good to think because they feel like America is the cause of, look, I was talking to, many of you may or may not know that Dr. Souffrant is from Haiti. She's of Haitian descent. And there has been no more destabilized situation than what's happening in Haiti right now. The fact that Haiti has no functioning government. They have no functioning government. Haiti right now is being run by gangs, kind of where they are. And a lot of it was American foreign policy, right? American foreign policy. So for whatever reasons, and because the people look like you and I, the suffering in Haiti doesn't resonate the same way the suffering in Bosnia resonated with Americans when they were suffering in Bosnia, right? So I say all that to say that we need to be mindful. We need to be clear. And I heard something Kathy said. She used the word can't. But basically what she's saying is that if those folks are sitting up here looking to be delivered, Like all we need to do is pray about it. And if we pray about it, things are going to change. And I'm a believer in prayer. I don't know. I think it's a little bit more than prayer. It really is. It has to be a little bit more than prayer. Maybe prayer for strength, maybe prayer for perseverance. But at some point, because I don't know how involved, and maybe somebody out there is a lot smarter than me. Well, most of you are a lot smarter than me. I don't know how involved God is in our elections. I don't know how involved God is in our politics, only with people who are invoking the name of God to justify some of the God awful things that they do. We have a caller. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Yeah, Keith. Yeah, I'm listening to you. You're pretty good.
Oh, thank
you. You did mention about the what were the two things that you were talking about? I mean, the last thing was about Haiti. You mentioned about what were the other two things that you were talking about? About people hating Americans.
Say that again. Ask me again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, about people. You mentioned the thing about Haiti. You mentioned about people hating Americans.
Oh,
what
yeah.
was the other thing?
Why they?
And what was the thing that you said before that?
I just talked about all the destabilization America has done around the world: Guatemala, El Salvador, the Congo.
Yeah, I want to tell you
Iran.
something. I want to say something. Our neighbor to the north. When first time I went to Canada, and first time I went there, I met the border guard, and I had some replica guns. They weren't real guns. And I remember this young guy, young black kid, had done something, and he said, "Well, you're not coming inside the country." And he was trying to bubble his way in there. And he said, you heard what I said. You are not coming inside our country. This is our country. And by the way, he got really upset because he said, we call ourselves Americans. But he said, by the way, we're Americans too. And he said, for now on, your exact title is going to be U.S. citizen. You're a U.S. citizen because we're Americans too. We're part of the North American continent. Mm-hmm. We have this. And then when I was in Vancouver, walking around, I can't tell you the number of people who came in there and said, something, they consider people in this country bullies. We're always pushing our weight around. And a lot of the people, and even in Canada, our neighbor to the north, they were really sick and tired of being told what they had to do. And they were like, and I said, wait a minute now, I voted, I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm not an American because you guys are Americans too. They wanted to clarify that with me. And they said, when you come inside this country, are you coming to work? And they said, no, you can't work. The other thing they told me was, are you coming in this country? If you come in this country legally, I said, yes, I'm coming in here. I'm going to stay about 5 or 6 days, and I'm going to go back. And they said, if you're going to come in this country, do it the legal way. Become a Canadian resident. Become a Canadian citizen. But you're right about the things that we have, not so much our government, but sometimes they wound up hating some of the people, too, because so many of our people in this country, somebody was telling me they were from South Africa, and they would say they would get people come to this country, United States of America. They would go to even South Africa, and they would say, "Oh, you can't talk this way. We're Americans." And the people were they were just ticked off at them. They would get slapped, punched, and because people were like, so many of us are just ugly Americans. You've heard that statement.
Oh yeah, it's funny. The movie was on the other day. Marlon Brando, The Ugly American. But it's amazing. I had a classmate from Nigeria, Chukwu Ogala.
Right.
And we'd be talking, and Chukwu finally in frustration said, you Americans are so arrogant.
Right.
And now we're descendants of enslaved Africans. But there is an attitude, there is a chauvinism that even if you're marginalized when you're an American, we think and feel like Americans. 9/11 was one of the great examples where all of a sudden you felt American. I mean, it was amazing. And then once we began to peel back the onion and found out that these attacks are not just people don't like us, right? There's probably some foreign policy. There's something that has been done. In the case of 9/11, bin Laden was very upset when American troops went into Saudi Arabia because he felt like it violated their holy land. And then for him, it became a holy war. But when you look at why people like the Iranians, I talked about the abuse that the Iranians suffered under the Shah of Iran, right? It is not that. And then and the flip side of that is that America has gone in and done great humanitarian good. You know, so it's almost it's a mixed record.
We've done it. We've done the good out of selfish reasons.
Of course.
And I guess most countries do that.
Right.
But I'm saying is that they were just telling me they listed a whole bunch of things that people in this country had done, and they were looking at me, and I said, "Well, hopefully you don't have a gun." I said, "No, I don't carry a gun. I've never killed anybody," and that was their great concern. I said, "Wait a minute now." I mean, if you go to Canada, they got a big sign saying handguns are illegal. That was their other concern was the violence they see in this country.
Well, someone mentioned Wayne LaPierre, who was the leader of the National Rifle Association, right? He was the executive director. And this idea, now I'm sure you can own a long gun in Canada because I know that
you can.
But the whole idea, what do you need a handgun for? Handguns are there to kill. All weapons, guns are there to kill. It's like, why do I need an AK-47? And then when you look at many of our mass shootings in this country, usually it's an AK-47 or MR-16.
Or an AR-15, right?
Is it AR-15? Right.
AR-15.
And
that's what they mentioned to me, is they were just talking about when every time they turned on the TV set, and then I was doing a conference. I work as a stagehand in Colorado, and some lady came there. Her father told her, something, by the way, her father didn't want her to come to this country, he says. And I said, wait a minute, why? And he said, well, every time they turned on TV set, they said 15 people shot here, 10 people shot here, 5 people shot here. And that's all they show. And because in Hong Kong, they don't have what was Charlotte telling me? She's from Singapore. She says they don't have any, people aren't walking around, there's no Second Amendment laws. And there's no First Amendment laws, too.
I don't know how much hunting they do in China. The only people who should have guns in the minds of the Chinese government is the military and the police.
Right. And somebody had told me that, Charlotte was telling me that she had to tell her father, Daddy, there's good people in this country. And then we were lacking when we were landing in the show. She says, Charlotte, do you feel safe? No, nobody in this country attacked me or stabbed me. I can go home and tell my daddy I came back safe.
Well, they're.
But she was just talking about the way they're portrayed with all the guns, and they just think about when they see an American, they run for their life.
It's interesting, Mexico just elected their first female president. I find it really amazing that other countries that you would think is not as advanced as America, but they're advanced enough to elect a woman, something that we seem to struggle with in this country, the ability to be able to elect a woman. But there were 38 political assassinations this year in Mexico.
I mean, a lot.
So, and my fear is there's a movie out now called Civil War. I don't know if anybody's seen it. I actually went to the theater.
I've heard of it.
It's a great movie. Which talks about America. And someone pointed out Al-Qaeda, ISIS, they're not the threat in America. White supremacists poses the greatest threat to America. And we could be, and I don't want to sound alarmist, but we could be on the verge of a civil war. If you have where, again, in this verdict with Trump, where 50% of Americans thought it was right, now, you would think that based on the evidence that would be a higher number. And then I think the number they gave of people who did not think it was right was like 27%. Okay. And then you got these other people, they just don't know. I don't have an opinion.
And they'll be they'll be swayed by their friends.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot. So that the so-called independents, only about 33% of Americans voted for Donald Trump in the last election. I think it's a little bit closer than that. That means that the majority of people who were 30% of the population voted for him. That means that there was a whole lot of people who didn't go and vote. But I make the argument that in this instance, if you decide to sit out the national election and you don't vote and you want the Democrats to win, any non-vote is a benefit to Donald Trump and the Republican Party.
Well, somebody told me, it's not so much Donald Trump. Somebody says he's important. The president, the head of the state is important. But we had a Black Lives Matter. They had a demonstration. They were telling black folks, well, we had this when they Brock, and we have a black this, we have a black that, and black folks are still getting killed. What is the issue? She says, don't vote. And somebody had to come in there. You know something, you can do what you want to do. The person from the city and county of Denver said, you can do what you want to do. But I'm telling you that all politics is local, and you have to stay engaged. And mistakes are made no matter what they're at the city level, the state level, or the federal level. You have to let people know how you feel.
Yeah, and I'm trying to
And even if they don't hear you, you have to keep on letting them know how you feel. You let them know by the ballot box.
Well, I just I'm worried that this is where we're going. If you have people right now who won't accept the election outcomes, if you have people who won't accept jury verdicts, look, Black people have been accepting bad jury verdicts since forever. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad jury, but what confidence then do we have in the system? And I think the whole okie doke with Mr. Trump is that he could say, look, they're doing this to go after you. No, they're not. They're doing this because you violated the law and you were convicted in a court of law based on the evidence. All right, man. Appreciate you.
Right.
You're listening to Community.
You take care.
All right. You're listening to Community Voice. We're up on the last break of the program. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of renting and paying a land?
Your way. Caller, welcome to the program. Hello?
Chief, just real quick. Hang on. Let me turn the radio down.
Okay.
You said something, and that's where my frustration is, and the list can go on. Medgar Evers, Emmett Till, Rodney King. We could go. The list can go on and on, Keith. This man brought all this stuff on himself. Now I'm gonna tell you. When I heard that on Friday, I didn't jump up and down. I wasn't sorry for him. I was sorry for this country, Keith. That's the example that we putting forth and how the world is looking at us right now. Thank you, brother.
I appreciate it. Let me thank the good folks, Miss Arenda Jones, Miss Pamela Bell, Miss Olivia Thompson, Dr. Souffrant. Let me thank you. All the callers, we thank you. Debo, thank you. Carvey, thank you. Good Lord, willing, Creek don't rise. Hope to talk to everybody tomorrow. And as always, go from this place in peace.
Oh Lord, grant us all of it, peace. Oh yes, and let all dissension cease. Let our faith each day increase. Oh yeah. And Master, yes, yeah, oh please, open our eyes, open our eyes, open our eyes, Lord, open our eyes.